Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this really cute turtle, and you can recreate it in any size of your choice by just changing your hook size and your yarn. So for the baby turtle, it measures about 8 inches long and 8 inches wide, while the big turtle measures about 13 inches long and 14 inches wide. So without further ado, let's head right into the video. So the first thing that we're going to start with is a magic circle. To make a magic circle, place the end of your yarn on these two fingers like this, and then make an X. At the point where the X meets, hold on to it with your thumb. Now turn your hand like this, and then place the other end in between your ring finger and your pinky finger. Now, taking your hook with the mouth facing downwards, place it like this, and we want to pull on this one. So pull on it like this and then turn. Now we want to chain one using this strand here. So yarn over and chain one. Now just take out your fingers and you have your magic circle. We've already chained one because with this pattern, at the start of every round, we're supposed to chain one, because I prefer chaining one if it's a single crochet and then chaining two if I'm working with a double crochet, because it just makes my work neater in my opinion, and it removes the hassle of trying to slip stitch and just ending a round and starting a new round. Now into this magic circle, we're going to put in 6 single crochets. So to make a single crochet, I'm just going to go into the circle, yarn over and pull up a loop. And now you can see I have 2 loops on my hook. And then I'll yarn over and pull through both loops. And I've made the first single crochet. Now, after every first single crochet, we're going to place our stitch marker, just so that it will help us with counting our stitches and also knowing where to end the round. So underneath this stitch here, just before the loop, I'm going to put it underneath. It's like a V, forms a V. I'm going to put the stitch marker there. And so I'll clip it. Now into the magic circle, we've already put in 1, so we're going to put in 5 more single crochets. Now, depending on the type of yarn that you're working with, and then just with single crochets in general, it might be a bit difficult for you to, count the posts or count the stitches of your single crochet. So how you can do that is by counting the V's. So where we put our stitch marker is the first single crochet. So this V here is our first single crochet. So we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. To continue, we're going to close up the circle by pulling on this short strand. So I'll pull on the short strand like this, and the circle should be closed. You can pull on it until there's no hole in the middle. Yes, and then we should have this. So we're going to make a slip stitch now to end the round. So make sure you take note of where you place your stitch marker before you take it out. Or if your hook can go into it, personally I find it uncomfortable, so I'll take it out. But if you want, you can put your hook into the stitch while your stitch marker is there, but I'll take mine out. Now to make a slip stitch, I'm going to go into that stitch like this, and then we'll yarn over and pull up a loop, and we should have 2 loops on our hook, and then we'll pull the first loop out of the second loop like this. Now remember I said that at the start of every new round we're going to chain 1, so I'll go ahead and chain 1. Now the pattern for this round is that we're going to put in 2 single crochets into every stitch Now we started with 6 single crochets for the magic circle, and then for this second round, if we put in 2 single crochets into every stitch, we should have a total of 12. Now the first set of single crochets go into this stitch right here. This is our first stitch. Is going to go into the same stitch where we also have our chain 1, and it's this one right here. So I'll go in and make my first single crochet. So before I make the 2, I'll make 1 and put my stitch marker, because I said that after every first single crochet for every single round, we put our stitch marker. Our stitch marker is going to go into the same spot just like we did in round 1. So into the stitch or the V just before the loop, I'll go in and put my stitch marker. Now remember that we're putting in 2 single crochets in each stitch. So I've put in 1 and I'll go in and put the other one. Now I'll go to the next stitch here, this one, and I'll put in 2 single crochet. So I'm just going to repeat it until I have 12 single crochets. So keep doing that and I'll meet you at the end of the 12th single crochet. So now I have my 12 single crochets. So you notice that there's what looks like one more stitch left. We don't work into it. So I'm going to skip this, and then of course this one is my chain 1, and then this is the first single crochet we made. Now to start round 3, we chain 1, and the pattern for round 3 is we'll put in 1 single crochet here, 1 single crochet here, and then here we'll put an increase. So in case I did not make that clear for round 2, when you put multiple stitches in one stitch or in one space, it's called an increase. So we'll put 1 single crochet here and an increase. Now I want to explain this in another way. So even though you're not following a pattern and you want to increase to maybe 20 rounds or 30 rounds, how you know how to go about the increase, especially if you're spacing out your increases evenly for each round. So this is round 3, yeah, and we're working with a set of 3 single crochets. So number 1 goes in here at the stitch where you have your chain 1, it goes in here, and then 2 and 3 go into the next one. Then we're done with the first set. So number 1 goes in here, and then 2 and 3 go into the next one. So have it in mind that no matter the round you're in, the last 2 single crochets, they stay together. So into here, I'm going to put my first single crochet, and of course remember I said after every first single crochet we use our stitch marker. So I'm going to put in my stitch marker here in the same spot, and then into the next one here I'm going to put in 2 single crochets. So that is 2, I put in 1, and then number 2 and number 3 stay together. 2 and number 3. So we'll keep at it, and at the end of this round you should have 18 single crochets. So for each round we keep increasing by 6. So for round 1 we started with 6, round 2 12, and round 3 18. So continue in this manner and I'll meet you at the end of the 18th single crochet. Now we've come to the end of round 3, and of course I'm not going to work into this last stitch here. So I'll take out my stitch marker and make my slip stitch. To start round 4, we're going to chain 1, chain 1. The pattern for round 4 is we'll put in 2 consecutive single crochets, and then in the 3rd stitch we'll put in 2 single crochets together. So that's 1 1 2, or in another term we'll say put in 2 single crochets and then an increase. So at the end of this round we should have a total of 24 single crochets. So we'll continue like this, and I'll meet you at the end of the 24th single crochet. As you can see, where I'm making the slip stitch, there's like a line forming. So that's one way to know that you're slip stitching in the right place. So for round 5, we'll chain 1, and the pattern for round 5 is we'll make 3 consecutive single crochets and then an increase. There's 1, 1, 1, 2. So we should continue like this, and at the end of this round we should have 30 single crochets. So continue and I'll meet you at the end of the round. Round 6 is going to be the last round of increase. So chain 1, and then the pattern for round 6 is 4 single crochets and an increase. That is 1, 1, 1, 1, 2. Or like I like to say, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6 stay together. So at the end of this round, we should have a total of 36 single crochets. So continue and I'll meet you at the end of the round. We've come to the end of round 6, and for this pattern and the size that I'm going for, I'm going to stop here. But if you want to make it bigger, feel free to continue going to more rounds with the way that I've explained it to you. So let's say we want to go to round 7, we will do 5 single crochets and an increase. If we want to go to round 8, we will do 6 single crochets and an increase, and so on and so forth. Now the next step would be to fold it like this. So the right side will be outward, and this not so pretty side, like I like to call it, would be inside. This would be the next step, to fold it like this and make the limb. But before we do that, we're going to weave in this end because we don't want our work to unravel. So we're going to weave in the end. So right now I'm going to get my darning needle. I'll get my darning needle and I'll do my best to explain the concept of weaving. So to weave in, I'm going to thread this through my darning needle. This is why I don't really like, one of the things I don't like about cotton yarn. Now the concept of, so I came out from this direction. The concept of weaving is that you want to go in between stitches. Not that you put it and then you can see your needle on the other side, no. So I'm just going to go in between my stitches. There's really no right way or wrong way to do this. So let me go from this direction. I'll go in between my stitches like this. This is quite tiny, so it's a bit difficult to see. So I'll just sort of do it randomly. I'll go in between the stitches like this. As you can see, it's not showing on the other side. So I'll go in here, and then maybe I'll go in a few more times to the in between the stitches right in front like this. And then I'll try to go back in the opposite direction which I came from. So it's quite tiny, so I'm really struggling to see, but I want to go in the opposite direction. So let me go in from here. So I'll go in like this, just in between the stitches, and you see that it's not visible on the other side. That's how you know you're doing it correctly. So I've gone in, and maybe I can just do it a third time and come back again. I'm done. Now you can cut this off, but for me, I'll leave it as part of the filling for the leg, for the limb. You fold it into half. Make sure that where you ended your round is on one end like this. Now we stopped at round 6, which means that we had a total of 36 stitches. And since we folded into half, we want to close up the circle using single crochets. And now 36 divided by 2 is 18. So you simply go in. So this is the first stitch, right? That we have, the one that's just right at the bottom. We're not going to chain one for this. That's here in the same space as the slip stitch. So we'll go in there and come in on the into the stitch on the other side directly. Remember that there's this last stitch we usually don't work into, so that's why I'm not trying to come in here. Just insert your hook, so from one end, and come in on the stitch directly opposite it, and then we'll make a single crochet. So yarn over and pull up a loop out of both sides like this, and then yarn over. So we've made one, so we want to make 17 more. So I'll go into the next stitch, right? And the one directly opposite it's like this, and then I'll make my single crochet. So I've made 2. I have 16 more to go, so I'll go ahead and do that. So keep going and I'll meet you at the end and I'll explain something. So I put in 17, and to make my 18th one, you can see there's this one here, so I'll just go in like this and I'll make the 18th single crochet, and you can see we have a cute limb. So now I'm going to chain one. I'll chain one, and then I'll cut off a tail for weaving, and then I'll pull out the loop of that chain one like this and tighten it, and then I'm going to weave in the end. So I showed you how to weave. There's no wrong or right way. I'm just going to go in like this, maybe go in like this. So I'll do that and show you the final step for the leg. So go ahead and weave in, and I'll meet you after you've woven in this tail. Now I've woven in my tail and I have this left, so I'm just going to try to hide it inside the body of this limb. So I'll go into the exact same spot that my yarn is sticking out of like this, and then I'll go into the body of the limb. See, my darning needle is not showing on any side, and I'll come out at the far end on just any random place at the far end. I'll come out. Usually, if it was a bit longer, I would have done it, but I'll do it a few more times. So I'll go in again right into the same place where my yarn is sticking out. I'll repeat that, the process, and then I'll cut off the rest. And the part that's sticking out, I'm just going to tuck it in. So we've successfully made the first limb. So we need 4 of this. So go ahead and make 3 more using the exact same pattern. To make the shell, we're going to start with a magic ring, and into the magic ring we're going to put in 8 single crochets. Now we're using 8 single crochet for the shell because I wanted a rounder look than the pointy look that 6 single crochets would give. So go ahead and make your 8 single crochets, and remember to put your stitch marker after your very first single crochet. So we'll slip stitch to end the round, and we're moving on to round 2. So for round 2, we're going to chain 1 to start the round, and the same way we did our increase with the legs, we're also going to do the same thing with the shell. So into each of the stitches, we're going to put in 2 single crochets. That's 2 single crochets in each stitch until we get to the last stitch. And when we do that, we should have a total of 16 single crochets. So of course, put your stitch marker after the first stitch, continue, and I'll meet you at the end of the round. So we'll slip stitch to end the round, and then we'll move on to round 3. So the pattern for round 3 is chain 1, put in 1 single crochet, and then make an increase in the next stitch, and we'll keep repeating this until we get to the last stitch. So that's 1 single crochet and then an increase. We'll do this 8 times, and at the end of the round we should have a total of 24 single crochets, and then we slip stitch to end the round. So by now I think you should have gotten a hang of it. So continue in this manner, and I'll meet you at the start of round 4. For round 4, we'll chain 1 to begin the round, and the pattern is we'll put in 2 single crochets. That's 2 consecutive single crochets and then an increase. So we're going to repeat this 8 times, and at the end of the round we should have a total of 32 single crochets, and then we slip stitch to end the round. So do that, and I'll meet you at the start of round 5. So for this pattern, round 5 is going to be our last round of increases, and to begin round 5 we'll chain 1, put in 3 consecutive single crochets, and then make an increase in the 4th stitch. So we're going to repeat this 8 times, and at the end of the round we should have a total of 40 single crochets. So for the next 5 rounds, we're no longer going to be doing any increases. We're just going to be chaining 1 and putting in 1 single crochet in every stitch. So we'll put in 1 single crochet 40 times for each of these rounds, and at the end of rounds 6 to 10 we should have a total of 40 single crochet. And you'll notice that it'll start to fold up like a bow, so don't worry about that. Just keep going, and I'll meet you at the end of round 10. So now I'm done with my 10th round, but before I slip stitch, we're going to switch colors to the color of the limbs and the head. So here's how to switch the color of your yarn. So I'm going to go into where we're supposed to make our slip stitch, and then I'll introduce my new color. So I'll drop this one and introduce my new color. Now I'll hold on to it behind so that everything stays firmly. I'll hold on to it behind. Okay, so it's taut, and then I'll yarn over and pull up a loop. So you can see I have 2 loops here, so I'm just going to hold on to it from behind with my finger so that it stays taut. It's tight and not too loose. And then I'll pull up a loop, and you can see that I've successfully changed colors. So before I continue, I'll tie this here. I'm going to tie the 2 of them together. I'm not going to bother about weaving this in because this is the inside. I'm going to stuff it anyway, so I'll just leave it there. And you can cut off the rest of your other yarn. That's this one, this color. I've already cut mine off. Now we're going to chain 1, and this time around we're going to be working in the back loop only. So the front loop is this loop that's facing me, that's facing you, this one, and this is the back loop. So we're going to be working into the back loop only. So go ahead and make 4 consecutive single crochets, and of course after the first single crochet we're going to use our stitch marker. Now I've made 1, so I'm going to make 3 more single crochets. Now I'm going to introduce the limbs. So take your limb. Now I want the beautiful part. So when I turn my work, I want the beautiful part. This is what I call the beautiful part. So I want this side to be facing here. Do you get? So turn your limb like this, with this in this direction, and we're going to be working into 4 of the stitches here. So I'll place it like this, and I'm going to join it to the shell by working in 4 single crochets into 4 of the stitches here and into 4 stitches on the shell, just like we did when we were closing up the limb. So to do that, insert your hook into the first V right at the top here, and then go into the back loop only of the next stitch like this, and then go ahead and make your single crochet, and then go ahead and yarn over, pull up a loop through both the shell and the leg, and you should have 2 loops on your hook like this, and then we'll go ahead and complete our single crochet. So we're going to do that on a total of 4 stitches here on the limb. So I'll go into the the second V on the leg, and then I'll go into the back loop of the next stitch on my shell like this, and then I'll complete my single crochet. So I've done 2. I'm going to do 2 more. This is 3, and then I'll do the last one. So I've successfully attached it. Now see, if I turn, you notice that it's what I call the beautiful part that's showing, this side where the V's are more visible. These stitches are more visible. Now we're done with the one leg. So we're going to go ahead and make 5 consecutive single crochets. We're no longer attaching the limb. We're done. So I'm going to go into the next stitch and make the next 5 stitches and make 5 single crochets. Then you get your next limb the exact same way that we made this to face like this. And that's the same way we're going to hold it and make single crochets into 4 of the stitches. So I'll go into the first V. You have to turn it a bit to see it well. So I'll go into the first V here like this. Can you see? And then I'll go into the back loop of the next stitch on my shell like this, and then I'll yarn over and pull up a loop through both the shell and the limb, and then I'll complete my single crochet. I'll do the same thing in the next 3 stitches, both on the leg and the shell. Okay, now I'm done with attaching the second limb or the second leg, and then we're going to work 6 consecutive single crochets on the shell. Now I'm done working the 6 single crochets, so I'll take the third limb or the third leg. So for these 2, we made them face like this, right? But for the last 2, we'll make them face in the opposite direction. Can you see? This edge is facing here, while this edge is facing here. When you turn it, you see how it all aligns. You see how everything aligns well. So make sure that your limb is facing like this with what I call the beautiful side facing behind. Now we're going to work our single crochets in the opposite direction. So before we started from the top to the bottom, now we're going to start from the bottom to the top. So you start from the fourth stitch on this third leg. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to start from the 4th one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Insert your hook into the 4th one, and then we'll just do the same thing. If you want, you can make yours 5, but for me, I find 4 is good enough. And then we'll go to the second. Go to the third. And go to the fourth. Okay, so I'm done attaching this, and then we're going to make 5 consecutive single crochets just on the shell. Now the last limb is going to face the same direction that this one was facing. So with the beautiful side facing backwards, we're going to work from here 4 single crochets from here upwards, just like we did with the third limb. So now we're going to work 4 single crochets into the last 4 stitches left, and then we'll make our slip stitch, which should give us a total of 40 stitches. Remember that we stopped our increases at round 5, so we should have a total of 40 stitches. And then now I'm going to make my slip stitch. When you turn it, you see that we have this very cute, you can see how all the limbs align. We have this very cute turtle.